Bagseed Chronicles is a podcast about cannabis.
Oh, I think anybody can grow these plants, and I think everybody should.
And the people who enjoy it.
I pulled a 475-pound deadlift,
Oh my.
like an hour and a half ago.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Bagseed Chronicles. This is your host, Uncle Dig, and I'm happy to present to you a very exciting interview today where I got to interview Canadian home grower, chef, and fitness enthusiast, BeardedStonerboiii. Me and Austin talked a lot about life, companion planting, a little bit about fitness, and actually a fair amount about food. So if that sounds interesting to you, stay tuned. But before we get to that, just a quick update about what's going on in my very small garden. Uncle Dig's garden update. Hello, everyone. It is November 18th, 2022. We are in Gardening Zone 8B, and if you have any outdoor plants at this point, you probably shouldn't, because winter is coming, and so I'm not going to talk about so much about the gardening zone. It's too cold to grow outdoors. I have 2 tangerine dream plants that are currently flushing. I'm not feeding them at all. They're in a 2x2 micro grow tent. I'm waiting for the trichomes to develop to a point that I enjoy, and then I will pull these plants, and then I won't have any plants, and I will be rearranging some stuff. I have some animal things I need to take care of before I start my next big autoflower grow, namely installing a proper cat door on the garage to trap heat. I sort of adopted a stray cat we call Sneaky Pete. He's adorable. He's a little black cat with a little white spot on his tail. And he started coming around. He was all starving, so we fed him. And now he's not starving, and he's hanging around. But our cats won't let him in the house, which, makes sense. We have 3. 3's probably too many, so 4 probably wouldn't be great. So we're going to have a garage cat. And the garage actually stays fairly warm in the winter because I'm growing weed in there. So that'll be nice for Sneaky Pete and for us. I won a seed giveaway on Instagram that a person called A.K.A organized. I got some really cool seeds. I got some Bust Down Patek, which is an autoflower from Gem Hunters Genetics, I believe. I got another couple of things, but I'll talk more about that stuff as I get planning for the next grow. I just don't have a plan laid out, so I'll talk to you about those genetics that I got donated to me as part of this Veterans Day giveaway in another segment. But I just wanted to shout that guy out specifically because his autoflowers are going straight to the front of the line in the next grow because I'm really excited about them. All right, everyone, that's it for my garden update. Let's overgrow the world. Sorry, guys, quick clarification. The autoflowers I got were from Gem Seekers Genetics. Again, that's Gem Seekers Genetics on Instagram. Here we go. All right, hey, everyone, please welcome to the podcast, BeardedStonerboiii. BeardedStonerboiii is a cannabis activist, fitness enthusiast, home grower, chef, and all around a fun follow on Instagram. Welcome to the podcast, BeardedStonerboiii. Should I call you Beard or can I call you Austin?
No, you can call me Austin. Real names are fine.
Okay. How long have you been growing cannabis?
I don't know. That's a tricky question because, we're on a couple years of legalization here in Canada.
Okay.
But I've been into this for much longer than we're allowed to say.
That makes sense. Everyone started somewhere, and a lot of people started before it was legal.
Yeah, and then just over COVID, the restaurant I was working at, we were basically only doing takeout.
Yeah.
So I got laid off for a while, and it just became like a more hobby-ish than it was, I guess. I really got into the plant side of stuff.
Yeah, I think around that time was probably maybe when I started following you, like in the middle of
you showed up pretty early on. Like I've been following you for at least 2 years now.
Yeah, yeah, and well, you were one of the first indoor grows that I saw on Instagram where I looked at and I was like, that's what a decent indoor grow looks like to me. Like I can tell that that's producing, the plants are healthy, it's not super stretched out. Like it kind of gave me something to like kind of shoot for initially, which I kind of appreciated.
Oh, I appreciate that. No, I have a background in plant stuff. I grew
Yeah,
up in a farm family, and growing up, we always had a vegetable garden. Like from I don't know, 5 or 6 years old, I was helping with the vegetable garden, and I
totally.
never stopped doing that. So my whole life, I've done cucumbers, tomatoes, and squash, and whatever else I can get to grow. So I had that like background understanding and how the plants worked, and to be honest, more of it carried over than I expected, and I don't know. I think I do just fine.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people do really well, and I think a lot of people who are new to gardening and new to cannabis gardening think they have to only look at cannabis sources. Like at the end of the day, cannabis is one of many plants you can grow, and it also does a lot of similar things. So a lot of prior like gardening experience can help. I didn't get to garden as much as I would have liked to as a kid because I lived in the suburbs and my dad didn't want me to dig up the backyard, which makes sense.
Was he one of those like perfectly cut, real tight grass lawns?
Yeah.
All
Oh
all
yeah.
pretty. Yeah.
Yeah. Like one of those guys that he would pay me and my brother to go out and mow the lawn to teach us values. And then
Yeah.
he'd
Okay.
send us away and then he would redo it because we did it like a pile of shit and
Yeah.
it didn't satisfy
You
him.
didn't leave the perfect little
Right.
lines back and forth. Yeah. Yeah.
He would
Yeah.
come clean up the edging after us and stuff the first couple of years and then it was big boy time and we had to do it just as good. But yeah, he's really into the yard looking good. His truck was always clean. You know the type.
Yeah, no, I like my grandfather's super like that, and I think that's where I got to the paying attention to the plants.
Yeah.
I even on days where I'm not scheduled to water or fertilize, I'm constantly eyeballing them, making sure everything looks good.
Yeah, yeah, and it can be tricky too cuz like toward the end of like when they're flowering and stuff or when they're really stretching, when they fully filled up the pot, it seems like they want more water than when they're vegging. So it's always kind of a trick to figure out how much to give them at least initially.
Yeah, no, and I switched up how I do things. I'm on the third round using it. I'm using a bed.
Oh
I'm using a
yeah, I saw
flowered
that.
bed in my flower tent now. I
Yeah.
love it. For one of the reasons is what you just said. My watering intervals are so much less now. Now
Right.
it
It's
there is a risk to overwatering because I have basically no drainage when compared to like a pot,
yeah.
but I also haven't spent any money on soil maneuvers in God a year and a half.
So are you just
Other
constantly refreshing that bed with nutrients and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. I'm using Gaia Green stuff,
Okay.
and then I do my own compost as well. So
Oh.
all I do is when I transplant the flower or a plant into the flower bed, when they get transplanted, I give them a half shot of the Gaia Greens all purpose
Okay.
with a measured out amount of my compost, and then once I see like positive recovery and transition into flower, I hit them with a full shot of Gaia Greens 444 or what 264, whatever their power bloom,
Okay.
and then I just leave it, and all I do is water from then on.
Okay, nice. So you're doing that's neat. So you're doing living soil in a full like box bed in a
Yep,
tent. And I've seen pictures
in
of it and
in the
that's really
house.
cool.
Yeah, no, it and like I have to be careful when I open it sometimes, especially later on in the day, because I have a good culture of ladybugs. What are those little roly poly things? Potato bugs.
Pill bugs?
Yeah,
Yeah.
those things and earthworms in there.
Oh.
So if I'm not paying attention and I open it, next thing you know, I got to like go collect all my little friends and put them back in there.
Oh boy, yeah. And that's
But
kind of what
I
kept
have no
me from.
pest problems because of that, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And, and I'll take clones from outdoor plants and move them in the house knowing that I have stuff on them. And
Okay.
and my beneficials are like so over the top right now that they just handle it, so I don't even really have to worry about it. It's beautiful. No spraying, like no foliar spray or anything. I don't use any additives. It's like straight flat organic.
Wow, that's really cool. And so, that's amazing. See, and I don't like. I'm one of those guys. I don't bring cuts from outside because I know that I have
Yeah,
mice in
no,
my
because
garden.
that's I
Yeah.
I I did it once where I made a mistake and moved basically a full size and half flowered plant that was not going to make it. Our growing seasons are fairly short where I am,
Right. Yeah.
and I made one of those rookie mistakes of putting a 12-week flowering plant outside in an area where that puts me into November. And
Right. Yeah.
November's around are like we're getting into the negatives and it's snowing.
Right. Right. You're further up north in Canada, correct?
I'm I'm actually the southernmost point in Canada. I'm like 2 minutes from downtown Detroit. My mom actually lives in Detroit.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so I'm pretty American for a Canadian, if that makes
Right.
sense.
It does.
Because like we've got some snack foods you guys don't have,
Okay.
and and you guys, there's some American stuff we don't generally get in Canada, but because I'm right on the border, I get like the mix of things that are hard to find in both countries. It's neat.
Oh, that is kind of cool. See,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't. I grew up
Like you
next to
ever had a ketchup?
Mexico.
You ever no ketchup chips is a thing no one's ever heard of in the States.
What like ketchup flavored
Like a
chips?
like a potato chip?
Okay.
Yeah. The ketchup flavored chips are a thing I was told that are not very like available in America or available at all.
They're not common here.
You
No, I don't think I've ever seen that. That's why
you're
I
missing
asked. I was.
out. They're good. They got big vinegary crunch. Yeah, no, the food, right? I cook for a living, so I have weird obsessions with like weird foods.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not like super gifted in the kitchen, although I do all right. But like, I'm good at following a recipe, so of course I do all right. But I'm not very creative in the kitchen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, no, I get that. And that's like not having a bunch of experience with food, getting
Yeah.
creative can also be very dangerous, especially with the cost of food right now.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. It's not a good time to like try to experiment with baking without a recipe right now.
right. Like I do a decent amount of baking. It's something I'm fairly comfortable with. I've done courses in it and I
Yeah.
used to do all the desserts at a restaurant I worked at. So I'm fairly comfortable with that, and I still haven't been baking much because I'm like trying to not waste food. It's kind of sad.
See, I'm lucky. My partner will not leave bread if I cook it. So if I make bread, now I'm not saying this is healthy, but if I make bread, I don't have to worry about it going stale. People will
Oh
eat
yeah,
it.
no, somebody's gonna eat it.
Yeah, so like I'm
Yeah,
not wasting it. People may be binging a bit, but it's not going to waste.
yeah, no, I'd rather have someone eat too much than me have leftovers.
That's nice thing about bread though, because I feel about like fresh baked bread like it's kind of both. Because a cookie, it doesn't really satisfy like a meal does, but bread is kind of like both a kind of a dessert. When it's fresh, it's so good, it's almost like a treat. And then later when it's aged a day, it's perfect for a sandwich, whatever. It kind of transitioned into like a nutrient. I like bread.
No, you know what? I haven't done one lately. For a long time, I was doing sourdoughs at home. Like,
Yeah, I
yeah, no,
cheat.
trust me, I get that bread thing. I like you had mentioned, I go to the gym 5, 6 days a week. I
Yes.
basically do that so I'm not a giant slob because I live and breathe food. And then,
Right.
I start smoking and then I just eat whatever I want because I'm like, fuck it, I'm high and I want to eat shit.
Right, yeah. Well, and
It
I
gets out of
noticed that
hand.
I had trouble keeping weight off. I had I'm a fairly active person. Like I don't necessarily go to the gym or anything, but I'm out in my garden. I go on hikes when I can, stuff like
Yeah, like
that. Like,
you do stuff. You don't spend all your downtime sitting down.
right, exactly. And I had a hernia surgery a year ago. I was work long story very, very short. I was working on a farm a small cannabis farm, and I was moving some hay, and
Okay.
I was being an idiot, and I gave myself I either worsened an existing hernia I already had or gave myself a hernia. Either way.
Were you throwing them around?
Oh yeah, I was.
So again, growing up with like in a farming area, we I've stacked a hayloft or two. It's
Yeah.
awful, and
Yeah.
I know that suffering. I never hernia though. Oh God, I can't imagine that.
Well, I was recovering from some other health condition and I was starting to feel my oats, if that were, but I hadn't really been lifting heavy or doing any
Yeah,
like really, really hard manual labor. I've been doing some like ladder climbing and trellising, and I set some rat traps, normal farm stuff, but nothing super
yeah.
heavy.
Household kind of stuff.
Yeah, and like going up into attics and like stuff like that. And like light and even heavy gardening's not even that bad. But then you get to moving hay around,
Yeah,
and I went too much too fast. So when I do
big
start
big
lifting
full size
again,
big rectangles.
yes.
Yeah, no, they're weird to move around too because that's a big shape. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was moving them yeah, anyway, I don't get into my stupid antics, but I was being stupid. Um but I saw that giant plant you grew this year outside your house that went over the roof. How tall did that end up being? Did you
Oh,
measure it?
the monster. Yeah, I never got a completely accurate height on that
Okay.
when I was like 6 weeks into flower, give or take.
Yeah.
I measured it at 13 feet at its tallest point.
That's awesome.
But a couple days after that, we got a real bad windstorm, and that's where if you go through and check my pictures,
It's
all of a
sideways.
sudden the plant is like sideways.
Yes. I can't even
Yeah,
believe it finished flower that
it
way. That was
it
cool.
finished just fine. Well, I mean, I kept just about a pound of flour off of it,
Okay. Yeah,
and then
nice.
I washed the rest
Okay.
because I've been slowly. I'm not going to say his name, but I have a very good friend of mine that does hash professionally, like in the Canadian legal market. He actually does contract work where people pay him to come wash their shit for him.
Okay.
So he's not just good, like he's quite good, and he's been teaching me how to do this properly because to me it's kind of like baking. You gotta follow the recipe and everything's got to be done exact. All your
Yes.
temperatures have to be right, your times have to be right.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if you saw, I posted 2 days ago, I used his freeze dryer to freeze it and then I pressed it, and
Yeah.
I haven't pressed something that came out like that before. I was like dancing around the house like
It
giddy.
it looks like, listener, the hash he made first of all is full melt, and it looks like some sort of hard candy.
Yeah. So actually, I like the people listening can't see this, but I have the jar here.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it's like starting to separate, so I'm
Okay.
getting close. Probably I'm looking for like complete separation and basically get an oil cap on it,
Okay.
and then that's the terpenes separating out. Then I'll stir them back in, and it'll
Okay.
spend the rest of its life in the fridge. But I was expecting to get, I don't know, 40 grams of hash rosin off that plant, all
Yeah.
said and done. I got 85.
That's plenty. You're gonna be set.
Yeah, so I'm at a point where I'm like, what am I gonna do? Because obviously I can't, and I don't do that. I don't know. I hope no one thinks that I don't sell anything, but what I do, I have friends that smoke, and well, life's hard and affording shit's hard. So
Most growers I
I'm pretty
know give gifts.
open.
Gifts are legal.
I give stuff away. Like two friends of mine are getting married, and they're doing a fundraiser raffle for their stag and doe.
Oh, nice.
So they do a party and then they raffle some stuff off. I just gave them like 2 ounces of flour to raffle off.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah, no, and her man grows too, so he'll come by and we'll trade and stuff.
Oh
There
yeah, yeah.
we have a good little community around here of people who are into it, and it's nice because I can post, and we have a little group chat that's all the locals, and someone will be like, "Hey, can I try that. Like, yeah, sure. What do you got? Let me trade you.
My local friends, we keep each other in flowers when we have disasters. Like I had a buddy when I had my disaster this year where the mites were almost ate my plants
Oh,
entirely.
spider mites.
I got them bad this
Oh
time.
no.
And they hit it was weird. But anyway, so I lost a lot of yield this year, but my buddy
Yeah.
dropped a lot of stuff on me toward the beginning of the harvest season. So I won't have to worry. My last indica's hanging, and I'll run out of his stuff right when it's time to trim that. So I'm golden.
Yeah, yeah. So you're good. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I have these guys from Spain. I've been growing their stuff for actually, I think it was probably one of the first things I posted was one of the
Okay.
Outlaw Seeds plants.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
they've been basically sending me testers forever, and they're awesome.
Oh, that's amazing.
I did a mint candy from them that was on like OG mint chocolate cookie.
That sounds good.
It was awesome. I'm about to run out of it, and I almost want to see if they'll like sell me a couple packs of that so I can grow it again because I'm like I wish I kept that around.
Yeah, it's always like I mean, like I haven't kept clones around before. This year, a
I
buddy,
I I almost never do. I usually just keep rotating,
yeah,
but sometimes I look back and I'm like I wish I kept one of those.
I did it the first year. I had a friend come over and take some branches, and he rooted some of this Fire of Maru 5, which
Yeah.
was the one of the big indica plants out here where I only yield 20 grams off of it because of
Oh no.
mites and caterpillars. It's so good though. It's so good. It's a dirty like indica, like a dirty Afghan, but
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. I have some Afghan biscotti that I'm thinking about starting because I don't have any like skunky stuff flying
it's not
around.
skunky per se, but it's like funky, like BO. And
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. Like
yeah,
that earthy funk. See, I like
yes,
those. I don't like that straight uh I love my mint stuff.
I do too. Yeah.
Like a good sin mint cookie.
That's
Yeah.
one of my favorite strains too, actually, is Thin Mint Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah.
So I had a neighbor, and we'll edit all that shit out. I had a neighbor who gave me a cut of Thin Mint Girl Scout cookies when I moved in here as a housewarming present. And then I grew it out for 2 years because he gave me another cut the next year, but then he let the cut go and I didn't have any. Are you
Yeah,
there?
I know. It's like, yeah, no, I'm here. You good?
Yeah, that was wild. My internet completely tanked and then shut on, and now it seems to be working fine. I don't know.
It needed a minute.
Yeah, it needed a minute. Um, so I'm gonna tell you the same story for a third time, and if this doesn't work out, if this stops, we'll have to do it another time or something, or we'll figure
Yeah,
something
no,
else out.
that's cool.
But anyway, so when I moved into this house like 6 years ago, I moved in and I'm like, all right, I finally own my place. I'm gonna grow weed, and I'm getting out of the U-Haul, and my neighbor comes up and he's like, hey man, I'm like, hey, and he's like, do you like weed? I'm like, I love weed. I'm thinking about growing. He's like, you want to buy a pound? And I'm like, what? And then he's like, here, man, how? And he's like, here, when you get your garden set up, let me know, and I'll give you a clone. And the first clone of cannabis anyone ever gave me, sold me anything was Thin Mint Girl Scout cookies. And it was some of the best smoke I've ever
Yeah,
grown to
no,
this
like
day.
that is a good starting plant.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. It was one of my favorite like indica leaners I think I've grown to this day.
Yeah, no, thank you, neighbor man. Good looking out.
Oh yeah, dude. And since then, since I've like moved into this house, since I've been in Oregon, everyone in the medical growing scene and everyone in the home grow scene has been so helpful, so amazing, so generous. It's been really cool.
Oh yeah, no, actually, one of one of my favorites that I'm about to run out of, a guy last summer hit me and was like, I've got a bunch of clones and I have more than I need. You want a couple? I'm like, well, yeah, I have room for two. I'll take two.
Right.
So he shows up at my work and drops me off an in-house genetics platinum grape and in-house genetics apple fritter. I'm like,
Oh.
these aren't cheap genetics. These are nice plants.
Well, I mean, like
And
apple fritter is like huge right now. I don't know about like up there, but down
the
here, and it's pretty popular right now.
the platinum apple fritter he gave me was like pure apple. The apple terpene I got out of that plant was insane.
That's so cool. It
Yeah.
tasted like biting into an apple crisp
Yeah, no, and
almost.
it was like it was sweet and it was fresh. Like it almost smelled like sour green apple like candies. I was really impressed with that plant.
Was it more as of a sedative plant, or was it more of like a
Oh yeah, no, the both of the because they're like they're platinum crosses, both
yeah?
of those things I got to be super careful with or I'll wind up like midway through the day having a nap. I pressed a bunch of the platinum grape into flower rosin and it pressed like almost clear and cured almost white. It was like the nicest looking flower rosin I had ever pressed. And I made the mistake of like going in hard for it. And no, that wasn't good. That's like 8 o'clock at night. I'm going to bed. All right.
Oh, that happened to me recently. Because every time I trim one of my outdoor plants, especially, I'm real paranoid because I've put weed that was a little too wet in the jars before. I just had a bad time. So
Yeah.
what I do is I'll take it and the first like one of the first nugs I'll just trim it up like I'm gonna trim it and literally grind it fresh right there, like after it's dried
Yeah.
for however long it take, and smoke it just to make sure it'll smoke the whole way down the joint and it's not like fucked up or wet or anything. And I was doing that with the fire of my roof, and I almost didn't want to get up to trim after that. I was like, I'll just
Yeah.
sit
You're
here.
like, and I'm done.
Like, I don't need to fucking do this shit. But
Yeah.
was that big plant you grew this year? Was it a seedling or a clone?
No, everything, I believe everything I've posted other than those two platinums from in-house genetics, everything has been me starting from seed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do most of that. The first few years I grew, like I want to say the first 4 years when I grew outside, I had what was called my security clone. Because I knew what feminized genetics were, but I didn't trust them yet. And I didn't trust my ability to catch a male early on. And
Oh,
after running seeds for so long, I realized it was a little bit easier to catch a male. And at least here, the males seem to go off way earlier than the females, like in July.
I was just gonna say I'm pretty good at spotting males early on, but I made two boo-boos this run.
Oof.
I gave one of the pineapples I started to a friend of mine,
Yeah.
and it blew male. And then I had one outside that also blew male, but
Damn.
they started way like end of July because it was right around my birthday that I caught them. I was glad too, and Buddy was doing them indoor right next to his other plant he had going, so I felt awful. I was like, "Oh God, if I screwed your stuff up, like I will just give you flour, my dude. I am sorry."
Damn, that's rough.
Yeah, I've had pretty good luck on regular seeds, but two out of four is not great.
No, 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 no. What are you smoking on today?
Hitting our Canadian market right now, we
Okay.
actually have a lot of hash.
Okay.
This is Nugs fresh frozen hash rosin, and it's like it's here. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh
It's
yeah, that's
nice.
nice. Yeah.
It's nice. The texture's good. I can like just grab a piece and break it off and throw it in there. It's not too sticky or anything. I
Nice.
left it out at room temperature overnight because I got goobered last night after work,
Okay.
and it's fairly like shelf stable. Doesn't do anything weird. Sometimes if their cure's bad and you leave it sitting out for an afternoon, it'll start to get like oily, like it's trying to separate out.
Oh,
Some
okay.
some of that's strain specific too, though. It's like that's what I really like about these plants. You think you know what they're gonna do, and you think you're getting a good handle, and then you just play with some other genetic you haven't dealt with before, and the plant's like, "Nah, I'm not doing that this time."
I got real scared one year. I had one year, I don't know what it was, but I had two plants And I'd grown seedlings out of this. I had this tube of bag seeds that I like to grow plants out of for a while because it
Yeah.
was just always like a nice hybrid. I don't know what it was, but it was nice. And I grew it out, and one year both of the phenotypes smelled like straight cat piss. They were no, just for a little bit, like in mid.
Oh, like just early on?
They started and they smelled like they normally do, like kind of a stinky sweet but sweet
Yeah.
funk. And then they hit like week 4, week 5 outdoors, and they're like, we smell like cat piss now. I'm like, what are y'all doing? No, I don't like that. I don't want cheetah piss. I don't want cat piss. This is not the terp profile I'm looking for.
Yeah, this is not what I'm growing.
Like I will grow like weed that smells like dead bodies, skunks, like a hippie fucked like dirt outside a strip club, but I don't like the pee terps. Those are not what I'm looking for. And they had mercy on me. Week 7, they changed back. They're like, okay,
Yeah,
you're in
they
season.
kind of were like, all right, we're done with that now.
Yeah, and I'm like, I was scared. I was like, am I gonna grow like a fucking pound and a half of cat piss? Is that what I'm
Yeah,
gonna
no,
grow?
because I don't want that. I agree completely with that statement. Yeah, no, I'm good. Of all the terpene profiles I do enjoy, that is not on my list.
No, and
Have you
therefore,
seen
go ahead.
you guys have any of that truffle stuff up there?
Um, we had some like truffle butter that was popular for a little while, but I think that was one of the strains that moved through like as a
Yeah,
fad.
it kind of like it was a fad. Everyone was into it for a little bit, and then it passed.
Yeah, but then again, a lot of times too, people will grow out like a batch of something, and then the dispensary will run out of it, and then they get it like 3 months later. So I just haven't seen it on the shelf recently. That doesn't mean no one's growing it. I don't go to the dispensary as much as some people do either.
Yeah, no, like my girlfriend actually runs one,
Oh, okay.
so I go quite often, but I never really like that. I bought a hash rosin because I like trying other people's stuff that I'm doing, you know.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
But I generally don't really buy much. Sometimes I'll get like I I've been rude to my body most of my life,
Okay.
and it's catching up to me.
That
I've
makes
been in a
sense.
couple pretty decent car accidents, and like
Oof.
I work a job where you're on your feet for 10 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Yep.
So my back hurts all the time. I have trouble getting comfortable sleeping, and I beat myself up at the gym. Like I pulled a 475 pound deadlift
Oh my.
like an hour and a half ago.
Yeah, I can't do that anymore. Like
Yeah, no,
straight up.
I'm like I'm gonna stay strong, and then my body's like, no, bro, you're gonna hurt. So I buy these big ass bags of CBD gummies,
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm a
and I'll
big
just
believer in CBD.
yeah, me too. I eat like a handful of them every morning, and then another handful of them before bed. And I'll tell you what, if I miss a couple days, I hurt more than I do if I eat them like regularly. You know, I can tell they make me feel a little better.
My two biggest plants this year that actually fended off the pests the best were my Cannatonic and my CBD Dutch treat.
Oh, okay, okay.
So I don't take the I have a love-hate relationship with edibles. I make them sometimes, but I don't really they're not my go-to.
Yeah,
Um, and I don't really like eating CBD. And anything I can do at home, I'm going to try to do at home. So I've been
yeah.
growing these CBD rich cultivars, and the first 2 joints or a first sesh I have of the day isn't actually with a really potent cannabis strain. It's either with a 1-to-1 like Cannatonic or a 2-to-1 like CBD Dutch treat. That's how I start my day
Okay.
every day. Otherwise, I'll get stiff. It's not like weed helps with the pain, but it doesn't help as much with like the stiffness. The CBD really does.
No, I think that's what it is. I think my body moves a little better. I feel a little more lubricated.
Do you listen to a lot of music when you lift weights and stuff?
Oh, always, always. If I like forget my headphones at home when I leave for the gym in the morning, I get there and I'm sad because I know my workout's gonna suck.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, no, like it's my morning routine. Normally I work like 11 to 8, 12 to 9 kind of shifts.
So
So I
like lunch through dinner.
Exactly, lunch through dinner, and then I leave after the worst of it's over, basically.
That makes sense.
So my morning routine is usually sativa joint, gym session with a shitload of loud music, and then I'll go eat something real quick, take my dog for a walk, and head off to work.
Yep.
That big ass plant that you were talking about earlier, that's a full sativa plant too.
Oh
That was
boy.
that was like to cover my sativa for the while. I haven't done a sativa hash rosin. I'm very curious to see if it's got the punch I'm looking for.
Oh right. And it's funny. People look at me and they're like, you always talk about how much you love indicas. And yet all we see you pulling is like CBDs and sativas. And what I say is, first of all, mites and caterpillars ate my indicas this year. Like
Right. So there's
I
that.
had a Northern Lights that was 8 feet tall that just
That's sad.
it is.
That kind
But
like I
go ahead.
I like my plants. They're like little babies, you know. When stuff happens to them, I get upset. I let you down.
I was really upset the day I had to strip them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then now I'm in a better mood because I actually was able to save a lot of it.
Yeah,
Like,
you
because
got enough out of it.
yeah, well, because I got like 2.5 pounds of CBD. If I'm careful about how much of it I give away, I should be good until I'm able to pull more next year.
Yeah.
Like morning joints, I'm covered in.
You don't you don't run anything in the house?
I do, but I'm not running. I don't run the CBD
You
stuff
don't
in the
run
house.
CBDs in the house.
Well, like,
Okay.
because like
I generally I this it's weird. I find sativa dominant plants don't perform anywhere near as well indoors.
right,
Like I've done indicas in and out, and obviously there's differences in how they grow, right? You get nowhere
right,
near the density you do indoors. But I
right.
find they're more similar, whereas the sativas, I see them just overall the plant being healthier and happier outside.
See, I've had mixed results because I grow something. I basically, other than the CBD Dutch treat, which I've popped seeds of that every year for the past 3 years. Other
Okay.
than that, I am constantly switching it up, um, like what I grow, and I I found that genetics matter a lot, um, but I don't grow like a lot of sativas. Like I like straight sativas, like really, because it's
Okay.
not what I'm after. Like the closest thing I could think of that I grew this year, for example, is Amnesia Haze, which is not
Okay.
like a super like hard sativa. I would say it's like a milder sativa as far as like the racy effects and stuff, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and it got it's just I try to. I'm not just growing for me. I'm also growing for my partner. So I try to grow a mixture. But indoors, a lot of times the last few years, I've had the worst problems with the pests on the more potent, like I would call people would call them narcotic cultivars versus the CBDs, right? So
Yeah.
anything that tastes good that I was really looking forward to, the bugs really seem to like too.
Oh, that's definitely a thing. Anything super fruity or super sweet, I 100% can back that you have like a higher chance of pest problems. Absolutely.
But I've had a lot of really like good results growing autoflowers indoors. So I've been experimenting a lot with autoflowers because I find myself in these situations where I'm like, oh, I need flower. I would like to have a bunch of flower, but I want to do a
I
short run.
I generally don't run auto flowers
Right.
because I find just I'm without sounding like a clown, my my methods I top really aggressively,
Right. Yeah. Oh
right?
yeah.
Like I'm doing like I don't know 6 cuts of tops before they even go into flower,
Oh
and
wow.
then I
Okay.
spread them right out. Like I have one plant that's taking up 3/4 of my 2x4 right
Okay.
now, and it's got a dozen main sites on it at least.
Nice.
And like because I need that extra time to put in that work and get that spread out, I generally don't do autos
Yeah.
because I just my yield is way less. But
Yeah.
I did a I did two autos from Fast Buds Genetics
Yep.
because I gave away too much, and all of a sudden I was like, I'm not gonna make it. I need
Right.
flour. So
Yeah.
I threw a couple of those Fast Bud Genetics flowers in, and they were random testers someone gave me. Like it wasn't even a name; it was like a serial number.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't like that because they got done. They were both completely different, and one of them was like FR1C72-8 or some nonsense. Was
Yeah.
like super 100% cherry
Oh, nice.
in the like most beautiful way. And I've been on this obsession with trying to grow a cherry thing that I can get with a like cherry terpene profile that aggressive, and I
Yeah.
can't get it. And I hate it. I'm like I miss it, and it was just a
Yeah.
random autoflower tester that I'll never see again.
See, I know this sounds weird, but I kind of like that about autoflowers. I have a tendency to gamble in my garden, which is why I tend to like growing bag seeds. Like when I have so the first thing that happens when I feel like I'm sitting on enough flour is I
Yeah,
start popping random shit. Just
I don't
random.
need any real flour. Let's see what this is.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And even when I first started out, I was always popping bag seed because I couldn't afford to pop a bunch of seeds, and I love popping seeds. And because of where I'm at in Oregon, people would give me this bomb weed they grow outside, and I'd find like one seed in it
Yeah,
somewhere.
no, I there's a legal market cultivar in my area that has this plant, and they actually were nice enough to let me into their facility, and I was like, got any seeds lying around? And they all looked at me like I was crazy. I'm like, I just want one. Just give me
Yeah,
one.
yeah, just
I
one.
I've been lucky. I worked at one of the facilities for a little while, and uh three or four of them, I think now, four of them now have let me do tours.
That's
And
awesome.
that's cool because like I I grew big silly plants, but I'm limited in what I can do for
Oh yeah,
space and legality.
right,
So
yeah.
it's there's something special when there's a plant that I like. I was going specifically to the dispensary to buy this flower,
Okay.
and I got to see rooms of it. And buddy there, their lead grower, is an awesome dude, and we interact on Instagram. I've talked to him a couple times. So he goes out of the flower room for a second and comes back with gloves and gives me gloves, and he's like, "Go ahead, you can squeeze them and play with them." And I'm like, "Oh,
Oh man, that's
yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I haven't been on like a no, that's not true. No, I went. A buddy had me come out and tour his farm, but it wasn't like an official tour. It was like just him showing me around, kind of thing. Well, I mean, and then no, it was pretty cool. But like I've already talked about it on the podcast a little bit. My buddy Carlos had me out on No Bad Days, and they showed me their indoor cultivation and their outdoor cultivation, and it was
okay,
really neat, and they were doing some kind of innovative stuff. They were big KNF growers out there, and I think they're one of the only like hardcore KNF like folks in the Washington State rec market right now that I've
okay,
seen, and they're definitely the only one that let me on their farm. So
right." And that's seeing any kind of like production because I seeing how they do it is always interesting to me because there's always a takeaway from that. Like I'm always looking for that next little secret that's going to make me a little better.
right. And sometimes it also shows you like some like for me, like the biggest difference for me with a lot of what I see going on bigger commercial farms and even bigger like medical grows back in the day versus what I do in my garden is they handle the plants more roughly than I do, we'll say.
Yeah, no, I have also witnessed some stuff, and I'm like, be nice to it.
Dude, bro, they're gonna smoke that. What are you doing?
Well, I think there's a weird level of attention that a lot of the like hobbyist home growers give their plants that like these big places you just can't have that many
No,
hands on
no, no, not at
plants.
all. No.
And I feel like something's lost there.
I
Like there's
agree
a
with
level
you.
of love that doesn't go into it, and that it sounds weird, but I think it shows sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely does. And I think honestly, one of the big things is the cure. I think in commercial grows, they're just not doing that. Why
Well,
would they?
I I wonder if there's differences when we start curing things of that size. You know, they're doing drums at a time.
Yeah.
Because like with anything else, I'll bring it back to food and baking and stuff.
Yeah.
Surface area is a big thing, right? And
Yes.
I I wonder how much it could be affecting cures in really large batches. Like if you're curing like let's say 50 kilos at a time.
Right.
What's going on in that center portion that doesn't get any like proper airflow when you crack it? Are they mixing those up every time? You know,
Probably
do they?
not, right?
I, it's those little things that I wonder about. I don't know. I'm weird too, and a lot of the Canadian legal stuff they don't list actual genetics.
Right.
There, it's like everyone just combines some stuff together and they name it whatever they want,
Uh-huh.
and then I'm left over here like, but what is it? I want to know
Right.
what you. I want to know what you
And you
put
try
in
to
this
look it up
thing.
and there's no information because it's not a real thing.
Yeah, no, the real website just says the master grower bred something into something else and they give you no information. Oh, maybe I'm just nosy.
Well, no, like I think you should be able to find out what you're smoking. And at least if I grow a mystery seed at home, at least I know that it was grown to a certain level of care. I know that I didn't dump a gallon of Eagle 20 on it. I didn't.
Yeah, yeah. We have Canada's got pretty strict rules on growing practices.
Mhm.
So I don't worry that much because anyone dumping anything real wonky, they're gonna get caught and shut down. Everything in the Canadian market has to be lab tested.
Oh, that makes sense.
So there if levels of things are out of whack, they catch it right away.
State to state in the states, even if it's illegal, the testing regimens they use can be completely different, and like they're not always testing for pesticides,
Yeah,
especially up in
I've heard
Washington
from some
State.
guys on the inside too. Is there some labs that'll very quietly doctor stuff too?
Oh yes, there
Like,
are, and they
because
constantly get in trouble and open up, reopen over under new names.
yeah, because I have sat down and questioned THC content on things because like I do a lot of dabs. My tolerance is pretty good,
Yeah,
but like I've seen some stuff labeled 18s that straight like whoops my ass.
right.
And, and then I've seen flour labeled in like the mid to high 20s and I might as well have just smoked a fucking cigarette.
I feel like that has a
So I'm like,
lot to
there's
do.
got to be some inconsistencies in the testing.
When we know they lie about THC content, right? But if they're not testing for terps, right? If that 18%, if they cured it right and it had like the best like terpene profile for getting you stoned there is, and it only has 18% THC versus a lot of these 30% strains that push a lot of high THC don't taste like anything.
No, and there's obviously some relationship between THC and the terpene profile
Right.
that I don't think we maybe have a good handle on yet.
No.
It's interesting. It's interesting on like a scientific level, watching us trying to slowly figure out this plant.
Well, and I think it's going to be a lot like I think cannabis, I don't know if it already is, or maybe we're gonna go through like, you know how, remember like gastropubs, like they were real popular, like
Yeah,
scientifically
yeah, science
cooking, like
food.
yes,
I bought a couple fancy gastro cookbooks and tried to cook my way through them, and I bought the Alinea one. Alinea's like
yeah.
you know, Grant's a crazy person when it comes to food, and he's more a scientist than a chef, in my personal opinion.
Well, I kind of agree with you.
It was insane. Some of this stuff in this cookbook. Now, mind you, the like 2 out of the 20 things I tried, the two I got confidently can say I got right-ish at
Yeah,
least
yeah.
were wild food experiences.
Okay.
But But yeah, no, that seems to have faded, eh? That whole
Yeah.
gastropub thing, that didn't seem to last long.
You know what I think that is, man? Honestly, I think chefs are kind of like comedians or any other performers where they can find themselves performing to the back of the room, like to other chefs. Like, of course you want to try this. Doesn't this sound good? While everyone in the dining room is like, bro, what are you fucking doing? I want a seared steak.
Yeah, no, I spent a long time doing like closer to fine dining food.
Right.
I grew up in one of the nicest restaurants in my area,
Oh,
actually.
okay.
So I have that background in fancier stuff.
Yeah.
I'm running a bar kitchen right now, and you know what? It
Yeah.
pays better.
Uh-huh.
It's less drama.
Yeah.
It's way less complicated. It's easy,
Yeah.
and it's way more fun because everyone's laid back as hell. Like in those nice fancy restaurants, like the real ones, they're all
Yes.
assholes. Everyone's trying to cut each other's throat for the
Oh,
next
yeah.
shot at being in charge.
Oh, yeah.
They're all pompous. Everyone thinks they're better than everyone else. Like, no, I'm over all that. I just wanna feed people.
My favorite restaurant right now that I went to recently what is in a little small town. It's literally, when I say just a diner, I'm not being a dick. It's just a diner.
Oh,
But
I had breakfast at Just a Diner this morning, and I'll tell
right,
you what, the eggs were perfectly white and
right.
beautiful and delicious. It's good.
They have taken, like, our omelet has fresh ingredients, whatever, to its absolute peak level. Like,
Yeah,
they just do it perfectly. It's so
I
perfect.
I love good plain old food. Like eh, good classic comfort food executed properly is good. That's why it's comfort food.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like for a long time we got away from that, and everyone was like, "Oh, look how fancy I can be!" Like,
I
bro,
feel like we're going through something similar to that in the cannabis scene right now. Because for the longest time, it was exotics, 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 cookies. And now I see a lot of people are straight up growing OG crosses and old, like I grew
do you know?
amnesia haze
Do
last
you know
year,
what's funny? I have uh I have a White Widow Blue Dream that I popped, and I just topped it. Like I'm doing it too. I'm going
Yeah.
back to like my genetic roots on that one.
Like, you know what I miss, man? Real skunk. And you're like, what are
Yeah.
you talking
Oh,
about?
I think you follow him too. There's a guy that's like
Yes.
that. It's nonstop.
He's on a skunk hunt. He's looking for
Yeah, he's
the
skunk
skunk.
hunting. He posted something the other day, said his last plant smelled like rotten dead bodies and roadkill, and I was like, how do you know what any of this smells? Are you going up and sniffing dead raccoons?
I've well, and if
Just like, do you have
so
dead bodies in your basement? Should we be
well, I mean,
worried?
so if you have any background in hunting, if you have a background in the military, if you
Okay.
have
So I hunt. I
so you know
do.
what a
So
3-day old corpse smells like.
no, I'm being like an asshole about it, but I recognize the smell. I do
Yeah.
know what like dead things smell like. I do chef shit too, right?
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah,
And and when I
I have
found
seen some
out
pretty
how
bad
old
I have seen some pretty bad old dead things.
when I found out, like, when I was a young man and I found out how long people kept beef when I was little and I didn't understand how things work. And someone told me, oh, yeah, they keep it, they'll keep it out for like 2 days. And I'm like, they do what?
No, that's scary to me. 2 days. Ooh, my
there's
stomach.
there's there's that weird kind of food, like where they'll age it in certain ways.
Okay,
But
I
see, to,
did a,
to
I
me,
did
it
a,
sounded the same as a kid.
I did a 32 age tomahawk steak, and I aged it in rotten rice, basically in koji.
Okay.
And that was the best piece of meat I've ever eaten in my life, but it smelled rank while it was curing.
See, I'm not that brave. Like,
Yeah,
you
no,
see,
it was weird. It smelled weird at first when it tasted like walnuts. Like the
okay.
level of I taste like nuts now was weird.
That's wild.
Yeah.
See, I feel like your partner's probably, so there's certain things that I've been disallowed to do.
Oh, you have like a list of things you can't do anymore?
No. Hobbies that I was expressing interest in, and she's like, honey, please don't do that. One of them,
Okay.
which is fine. I get it. I've asked her not to do things. But like the one thing that I was getting into hides. I was watching a lot of YouTube videos about tanning hides.
Oh,
And,
okay.
and I was getting ready to be like, all right, trapping's legal in Oregon. And she's like, She's like, stop. All of our friends are hippies. I will hate you. Do not start trapping for skins and turn our backyard into some carnal house. And I'm like, fine.
Cardinal House?
That's what it, dude. Can you imagine?
No, I like I'm into the pagan stuff. I got most of my tattoos are pagan
Oh
themed.
yeah.
But I immediately pictured like animal pelts from wall to wall, and I was like, actually, that sounds nice. And I'm like, man, if my girlfriend hears this, I'm in trouble.
Think about smell. Think about how it smells, though, bro. When you're
Oh,
tanning
awful,
hide. Oh yeah,
awful.
that our whole.
I've done like I actually I do a little bit of that.
Oh,
I've done
okay,
I love rabbit.
okay.
And the season's really small around here, but they're all over the place, so it's
Oh,
pretty easy
nice.
for me to like be like, "Hey, can I come sit on your farm for an hour with a shotgun?" And I'll just thwap a
Yeah,
couple rabbits.
and
I
everyone's like, "Yes, kill the fucking rabbits."
Yeah, no, people that don't do farm stuff don't know they're actually awful annoying pests.
Yeah, they're in. Well, I mean, what are
Especially if you have a garden with some leafy greens. Oh
yes,
no.
and like I
Carrots.
don't grow leafy greens because I've seen rabbits in my yard, and they don't seem to like the peppers, so I keep growing the peppers.
Oh, really? Hot peppers?
Yeah, hot peppers, and they
Okay,
don't.
so
Go
that's
ahead.
something I do that very specifically when anytime I do leafy greens, I'll
Okay.
put hot peppers on the corners around them.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Squirrels, rabbits, stuff like that. The capsaicin in the peppers, they hate it and they won't go anywhere near them.
Oh, hell yeah. I'll do that next time I do a bed planting. I've been doing it in containers because I keep changing my mind where I want to put things.
No, and peppers, tomatoes usually get along fairly well as far as like
Okay, yeah.
planting things next to each other. And I like doing that because then I just pull all of it
Yes.
all at once and break it all down and I'll jar salsa.
Oh, nice, nice.
You already have tomatoes and peppers. I don't normally grow onions because they're a nightmare.
Yeah, I've
If you
had
grow
mixed
you ever
luck with
done
them.
it? If you grow like
Onions, yeah, it's mixed. I've had mixed luck with it.
I've I've never had a problem growing onions. They grow good in my area. The problem is they don't grow too good in the area. And then 2 years later, after still not planting them, I'll find 2 dozen onions in the ground randomly. Like they just grew again.
I almost wonder, like, there are people in the area that have good luck growing onions, but they're in places where they're planting them in partial shade during the hottest part of the day, and I don't have a spot like that.
Oh, okay. I have an overhang over like half of my garden, and that's where they're coming up is in the spot that's slightly shaded.
Yeah,
The
I
full
planted them
sun
in the
probably
sunny
like
spot like
bakes
an
them in
idiot.
the dirt. Yeah.
Well, and I've had a few plants that I didn't get along with. Like I tried growing potatoes of all things one year, and because it's so dry where I'm
Have you
growing,
ever done them in a bucket?
yeah, I did them in a cloth pot and a bucket,
Okay,
but
yeah. I You can do them in a bucket, and it's not too bad.
I didn't water them enough. I couldn't keep enough water
Oh,
on them
ew.
because it gets like 120 degrees in here, so it's getting 100 degrees in the shade where I live in the summer.
Okay, you guys get hot.
Oh, well, when you see me, that's another reason why I went back to some of the more generic cultivars. I was thinking they'd be a little hardier because I don't cover my plants. So if it's 120 degrees in the afternoon, my plants are in 120 degrees. And during that really hot part of the summer this year, they loved it.
Yeah, like they were into it.
Yeah, because I figured out that I had to give them about double the water that I would normally give them on like an 80-degree day. And there was
Yeah.
no skipping waterings. Like every morning they needed water.
Oh no, it was dry here all summer. I had to water daily for
Yeah.
like most like basically right up until middle of September.
And
Yeah,
and and
that was the thing.
sometimes you have to check it at night, and if it needs a little bit at night, you have to give it a little bit at night.
I I don't think I ever resorted to night times this time, but like we were fairly, I want to say cold. Like we got up into the like 105, 110 departments for a couple weeks,
Right.
but it the whole time it's always like a little overcast. We never
Yeah.
get that full like not for like any extended period of time anyway.
See, it's weird because I'm in the Northwest, but the part of the Northwest I'm in, it's Southern Oregon near the town of Medford, but we have a Mediterranean climate here. So like,
Okay.
so
So you get
in the winter it gets pretty cold, but in the summer it gets blazing hot.
yeah, you get that like big dry heat.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Plants
always
love it.
it's always humid here too, which
Yeah.
helps, except outdoor in my area, you got to know what you're doing or you will absolutely get mildew
Oof.
every time.
Well, yeah, and you're dealing with a short season. Like your season ends like pretty much definitively in early mid-October, right? Like it's done.
Yeah, like I have one more outside, but I basically left it out cuz I was literally using it for photos cuz it looked
Okay.
nice.
Yeah.
It changed straight like purple, orange, yellow. I've got every color of the rainbow on that thing, but it's coming down tomorrow, and
Yeah.
that'll be it. Most people I know growing this season took everything down.
Yeah.
One of the legal cultivars I talked to, I think they're taking their stuff down right now, like
Yeah.
this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Okay.
Most of the time, everyone's done by now because normally we would have had a frost.
Yeah.
And if we haven't had a frost by now, next week we'll get one.
Yeah. 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 So here, where it's more like Southern Oregon is like, so depending on who draws the map, right? So if a Humboldt native draws the map, we're not included in the Emerald Triangle. But if the FBI draws the map, the the Emerald Triangle ends just north of here. So
Oh, okay. So on the FBI map, you make it. You make it in the happy
yeah,
zone.
they extend it out. They call
That's
it
nice.
from.
They included you.
No, I feel it's great to be included. That
Yeah.
and so so we have a pretty ideal climate here to grow cannabis and grapes. And so a lot of what you see booming right now is vineyards and
Uh,
cannabis farming. Yeah.
we same thing. We have a couple. Well, not a couple. There's oh god, one, two. There's like 6 or 7 vineyards within a I don't know 20-minute drive from me.
Okay, yeah.
8 if you count the one on Peely Island. You got to take like an hour ferry ride over. It's nice over there though.
Okay.
We like to go over and visit because it's basically like a tiny little island with a handful of houses and one bar. So you just go and you stay at the little motel behind the bar.
Fun.
Barely any cars, no internet. It's like you hide from reality for a couple days.
There's a couple places that I like to go with my wife like that. We like to go stay. I like to find places like national forest campgrounds.
Yeah, my girlfriend loves doing stuff like that. We do a lot of like go on nature hikes and stuff. We went
Yeah.
camping for like almost an entire week with a bunch of her family for her birthday.
Nice.
I like outdoor stuff.
We'll pull the thing. We'll rent a cabin at one of those places so we get the comforts, but the no internet.
Yeah, yeah. So you can kind of like hide from life.
Yeah, yeah. Just for a couple days, and then you come back and you feel restored. I haven't done that in a while. I need to drag her out somewhere soon.
Her and I were just saying we should do something before it gets too cold because I like once a month take like one day where it's just like fuck everything.
Our winters are pretty mild here. So what we'll do a lot of times, a lot of the touristy places pretty much shut down for the winter, but the
Yeah.
few that are open, like if there's a hotel or a campground that has a couple cabins, a lot of times in November or December or January or February or even sometimes into March, they're not doing good business. So we'll go out there and we'll be like the only people at like the lodge or whatever or some stuff, and we'll just hang out when it's cold.
It's like you're in my head. We were thinking it's about a 4 hour-ish drive to Niagara Falls from here.
Oh, fun.
And I don't know if you've ever been to the Canadian side of
I
Niagara
have
Falls.
never been to Niagara
You
Falls,
should.
but I
It's like
heard it's fun.
the Canadian side is like I've been to both sides. And the American side, it's not as cool. It's
Okay.
like a whole theme park basically. there's a bunch of like haunted house things and goofy arcades and stuff. There's a
Oh,
couple
fun.
bars. So in November, the hotels in the area are like half the price because it's quiet, but there's no
Nice.
lines, there's no fighting with people.
Right.
I smoke joints walking up and down the street, going from like the
Oh,
bar
yeah.
to the arcade to do a haunted house to walk down and see the Frozen Falls. And it's
Yeah.
nice down there in the winter. They get all icicly and shit. It's cute.
See, we go out to the Oregon coast in the winter because in the winter it gets really stormy. And we'll go walk on the beach during the height of the day at like 2 o'clock. It'll still be 45, 50 degrees outside. It'll just be raining. So we'll wear a coat and some thick shoes. We'll go walk
Hey,
on the
you're
beach.
fine. Dress for the weather.
Yeah, like look, it's the Pacific Northwest. I'm not swimming for any length of time without a wetsuit anyway in the summer. So like that's not what we're here to do. We're here to hike and we're
Right.
here to like hang out in the hot tub behind the hotel and like be around like civilization but no people.
Yeah. Hotel hot tub sounds nice right now, actually. Ooh.
Well, you got to take your day this month and go somewhere nice. But hey, thank you so much for being on the Bag Seed Chronicles, Austin. Is there anything you'd like to promote before we get out of here?
No, I think I'm good right now. I don't cough cough. I don't have any big promoter friends going on right now. The Quebec Seeds guys actually were nice enough to send me a bunch of stuff. That's where some of the old school stuff came from.
Okay.
So maybe thank them for sending me some stuff to play with.
And where can the listeners follow you on Instagram?
Oh yeah, I guess maybe we should plug my own Instagram. I'm
Yeah.
at BeardedStonerboiii on Instagram. I do my best to answer everybody. If anyone has questions, pointers, or any specifics on how I do everything, I am an open book. I'm not one of those dudes that like hides anything, you know? I think anybody can grow these plants and I think everybody should.
All right, everyone. Oh, thank you for being on the podcast, Bearded Stoner Boy. I'll see you later. All
See ya.
right.
Have a nice day.
You can reach me, Uncle Dig, on Instagram at Uncle Dig. The bumper music on this podcast was produced by Chad DeVilliers on ukulele. He can be followed on YouTube at Ukuleles Are Stupid or on Instagram at Chadwick Enterprises. Thank you for listening to the Bagseed Chronicles. Oh, I'm complete. Horrible. Okay. Winter is coming.